I'm going to tell you a story, a personal story that happened to me. This is about 30 years ago, 35 years ago. I had a Chabad house in a city called Or Yehuda. Or Yehuda. Or Yehuda is, basically right next to Kfar Chabad. It's like a 5 minute, 6 minute drive from Kfar Chabad. and But nobody made a Chabad house over there because it was a place there was crime and there was drugs and everything like that. Anyway, I didn't know any of that. And the Rebbe said, this was in 1987, that the way to get all the Jews out of Russia was to make Chabad houses all over the world. And nobody understood what could possibly be the connection between one and the other, but they did it. And sure enough, in 1990, just the Iron Curtain just fell. Gorbachev said no more communism, and anybody who wants to can leave. Okay, but so I was one of the people that made a Chabad house, and I went to the city of Or Yehuda. And one of the things that I did there was I went around on Friday and asked people to put on tefillin. There was one particular person called Nisim. And Nisim, he did not want to put on tefillin. He had a little sort of a restaurant. It was a pretty poor place. They had maybe like, 4 tables inside. It was a small place. And there was a counter. And in the back, he had this sort of makeshift kitchen that he had over there, which was like just a couple of burners and he would make, very simple things. And he had a couple of chairs outside, tables outside. So there's a few stories that I have about that. And here's one of them. So I would go every day and ask Nisim if he wanted to put on tefillin, and he would curse me out. He was an Iraqi Jew. I don't know if you know Iraqi Jews. Iraqi Jews they can be like, usually, generally speaking, the Sephardic Jews all have faith in God, and they're not ashamed to admit it. They're not ashamed to admit it, right? Not like the Ashkenazic Jews. The Ashkenazic Jews, every Jew has faith in God, but the Ashkenazic Jews openly will declare that there's no such thing as God, and they don't, and they're not Jews, and they're the Ashkenazi Jews. But all the Sephardic Jews believe in God, with the exception of the Iraqi Jews. The Iraqi Jews are very intellectual, and they are, in much of their ways, just like Ashkenazim, and especially in relation to God. Especially in relation to God. A lot of the Iraqi Jews will openly say or act whatever that they don't believe in God and that they're against God. Anyway, so I sort of figured that this Nisim was one of them because he always refused to put on tefillin. But not only would he refuse to put on tefillin, he would curse me out. He would say, but this is in Hebrew. So in Hebrew, they don't really have any dirty language. There's no dirty words in Hebrew. If they do once in a while, they borrow something from America. It doesn't really ring in Hebrew. That's why it's called Lashon HaKodesh, because there's no words for this. Anyway, but every possible angle he could to curse me, you religious people, you're a bunch of parasites, and you should be ashamed. Your mother should be ashamed of you, and go and get a job, and you're stupid, and leave me alone, and what are you bothering everybody for? And you're just, and he made up things that it's hard for me to actually make them up, but he was really good at it. And every time I would come to him, and every time he would give me basically the same curses, sometimes in a little bit different order, One time I came to him, this is after about a half a year of him refusing, and usually I would come this and want to put out the film. He said, "You again?" I said, "Didn't I tell you before? I don't want to get away from here. You're bothering all these people over here, all you religious people. You're just a bunch of fools, parasites, cowards, and everything you could possibly think." Anyway, so one day I came to him. This is after about a half a year, and his place was empty. There was no one there. So I said to him, "Listen, want to put on the film today? What about today?" And he went through the same routine. You religious people. I said, listen. I heard all that before. You said it before. There's no one sitting here to hear what you're saying. Why don't you want to put on tefillin? So he looks over here and he looks over there and he says, "I don't know how to read." So what? He says, "I can't read Hebrew. Lo yodea likro. I don't know how to." So I said, "That's the whole thing?" I said, "Yeah." So I said, "Okay." So I'll read for you. I'll tell you what to say. He said, "Let's go in the back room." So he went in the back room. He could hear when somebody came in. So if someone comes in, I'm stopping. I said, yeah, no problem. But he said, Shema Yisrael. I read to him, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. I read to him as, about 3-4 minutes until he had enough of it. And I would do that every week. I would come to him and I say, what do you say, Nisim? He said, okay, go in the back room. Even if there were people there, we went in the back room, he would put on tefillin. After about 3 or 4 months, so I said, what do you say, Nisim? He said, I don't want to do it. I don't. I said, what happened? He said, I bought a pair of tefillin myself, and I know how to say the Shema Yisrael, and I do it myself. Okay, so what do we see here? What do we see from the story? The story is that, first of all, not to be offended or discouraged when Jews don't want to do the commandments, or even if they, how you say, vehemently don't want to, or even if they violently don't want to do the commandments, because every Jew really does down deep. So don't take it personally. It's not your personal thing. Number one. Number two, not just you don't take it personally, you don't get offended, but you are nice. Say, God bless you, have a good day, right? Be friendly. Why be friendly? The guy is cursing you because he's not really cursing you. That's only the outside. That's not the real him. That's not the real him. And the part of you that feels insulted, that's not the real you. That's not the real you. There's a human being inside of that cursor, and there's also a Jew inside of it. The person's a Jew. Number three is that inside every Jew really does want to put on tefillin. And that's the mystery, the incredible, unknown mystery that the Lubavitcher Rebbe revealed. That every Jew, even from outside appearances, he does not want to, and he never will. And he'll attack you if you try to even talk about it. But nevertheless, deep down, every Jew wants to put on tefillin. As we'll talk about more, God willing, every Jew wants to do all the commandments. As we'll talk about more, God willing, tomorrow, 8:15. See you all. Shalom uvracha.